Guys, we will give it a little bit more time. There are a few more sign-ups that haven't yet arrived. I'm assuming it's to do with the torrential rain that is currently falling everywhere. We might as well, given it's such a small group, we might as well just say hello and talk about where we're from and what we do. I might, look, I'll start with the great John Bergen, perhaps, from the Walkleys. If he's there. John? No. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm here.
Right. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I'm from the Hobart magazine, all the way down in Hobart. We started about 3 years ago, and we're a mix of lifestyle and community news. We've got a print circulation of about 35,000 across Hobart, as well as online, and we've just launched a podcast in the last couple of months. So it's all action. We're a very small team. My husband and I started it, and we have a journo who works with us as well, and then contributors on top of that.
Amazing. And so it sounds like you're wearing a lot of hats down there in Hobart.
Definitely, definitely. But I think that's part of the pioneering spirit of Hobart. I think you kind of got to wear a few hats down here.
100%. I'm such a huge fan. I spent a fair bit of time down there. Yeah.
You have, or you do?
I have. No, not anymore. But I when I was working at News Corp, and also at another company I was at called Storyful, we spent a fair bit of time down there.
Yeah. What did you like to do down here?
Oh, everything. No, I just really love it because I think it sort of taps into a lot of things that I love, which is kind of, it has a great history, and very rich history, and great stories, great food, nice people. Just wilderness, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, and we cover.
So you need to get that when I've got on this training thing. Sorry.
Not at all. Bronwyn sounds like we'll go to you next.
Sorry. I thought I needed something, but that's okay.
Yeah, most people have the opposite problem. They are sorry, they are muted. So great to have you. Where are you coming from?
So I'm from a local newspaper in Clare, the Plains Producer. So I work in the sales and advertising sector. And we're in the midst of launching our own magazine for the region as well. So, we're having lots of fun with that, dealing with that. So, we're pretty happy with how things have been going with the paper itself here. We weren't affected so much when COVID hit. We've got, about a circulation of about 10,500 copies. And we're the main newspaper that services our region here in Clare, SA.
I was down in Clare a couple of weeks ago.
I
was. I went to the Country Press SA.
Yes, we were there. Yes, so I probably would have seen you there. Yes.
I was lurking in the background. But I did. I stayed just up the road from your offices. If I had a bit of time, I would have popped in. But it's a beautiful place.
Yes, it's especially at the moment where I know you did mention about torrential rain, but there is not a rain cloud in sight. We've got beautiful sunny weather today. So, sorry, I'll have to rub that in.
No, well, look, we've got a little bit to share, so maybe it will head in the direction at some point.
Fingers crossed. Well, I think it's meant to be hitting here by the weekend.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us.
No worries.
Rose.
Hello. Great to be with you. Very well, thank you. So I'm in northern Tasmania, and I completed 30 years with ABC Radio as a rural reporter, and I'm now doing the unfinished business, which is freelance climate advocacy communications. So mostly in the digital sphere, but looking at how we can actually communicate and move the public conversation forward, particularly in rural Australia. So it's great to be with you, and I really appreciate the value as a freelance of these training events.
Oh, that's great to hear. And what amazing work you're doing.
Thank you. I'm working on an animation at the moment for which I have few skills, but enough to be pushing ahead with that. So it looks like it's going to be a really good project and great outcomes and lots of fun learning and developing.
Awesome. Well, I certainly can't help with animation. That is well beyond me, that's for sure. But great to have you along.
Thank you.
And we've got the Sunraysia Daily as well, our good friends. Are you guys there? Do you want to say hello?
Hi Neil, yes, I'm stalking you again.
I know, I love it.
I'm actually commuting at the moment, so that's why I've got everything turned off. I'm just going to listen.
Not at all. Well, great that you could join us. And I'll make sure that I send through the video after this as well, so that you can catch up on the on anything you might miss in the car.
Excellent, thank you.
Not at all. Cool. Well, before we get started, I think we've just had Carlos join us as well, so I might put him on the spot before we get going. Carlos, where are you joining us from? Probably the toilet or some important meeting. We don't want to interrupt that. Perfect. All right. Well, look, let's get going. Thanks for all of you. Sorry for joining us today. I definitely want to make the best use of your time, so we will get rocking and rolling. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all gathered today. From where I'm situated, where it's absolutely bucketing, it is Gadigal and Wongal country from the people from the Aurora Nation. And I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. So I work as part of the Google News Initiative, which is Google's effort to build a stronger future for journalism. My role focuses on the first of the 3 E's, which is to elevate and strengthen quality journalism. The other areas of focus for the GNI are evolving business models, if I might say that, through programs such as Subscribe with Google, and also empowering news organizations through tech innovation. That last bit is mainly achieved through the development of tools for journalists, but there are new things coming all the time. So we make sure we'll kind of keep you up to date on all of those things as they start to roll out. In order to keep you guys up to date, we also have this website as well, where you can get the latest training on demand. G.co/news training is the URL. It provides a bunch of different training resources around finding and telling stories. You can basically learn at your own pace. You can learn things like verification, how to visualize stories on the web. It's a really, really great resource. We also have another teaching fellow that works at Google, and he can take you through all of those things over video conference if you're keen. His name is Miguel D'Souza. He's formerly an editorial trainer at AAP, and he's unfortunately unable to join us today, but I can definitely connect you with him if that's of any interest to you. My role at Google is kind of unique. It's a 12-month fellowship with a very clear goal. My role is to help local and regional. Sorry, we just got a bit of chatter there. I think Carlos has woken up. Let's just mute you for a sec. Sorry, my friend. There we go. So my role at Google is quite unique. It's a 12-month fellowship with a very clear goal. My role is to help local, regional, and small publishers build stronger businesses through training and support. The training is what we're doing right now, and the support comes by way of office hours, which you can absolutely take advantage of. Office hours is basically a 30-minute or an hour, 60-minute consultation, all confidential, around any business challenge that you might have. I've done, I think, about 36 or 38 hours of consultations so far with a variety of publishers of all sizes. We've tackled things like the path to purchase, so how to get people to sign up for subscriptions without dropping off, launching newsletters, launching new magazines, all sorts of stuff we've worked on together. So if that's of interest to you, I'll send out a little link after this session so that you can sign up and have some time with me on anything that is kind of troubling you at the moment. In terms of where I came from, I got my first experience in journalism at a local newspaper, the Lithgow Mercury, in the central west of New South Wales. I think I was 15 when I had my first experience in news. And the first 2 years of my career were also spent serving local communities as a reporter. I'm absolutely, honestly, so thrilled to be in this role at this time, because I think it's both a challenging time for local and small publishers, but also a moment of immense opportunity. My most recent role was at News Corp. I helped them shift to digital by building a national training program for newsrooms. I trained over 1,000 journalists in social media search and mobile video. I also taught journalists and editors how to maximize readership and revenue. And I'm starting to pour a lot of that experience into these programs that we're rolling out now. Also launched a social news startup called Storeful in Australia. Storeful was a first of its kind service providing publishers and brands with social media content to use in their storytelling. Before that, I was head of social media at the ABC, leading the business through a period of quite dramatic change. And I'm currently a sessional lecturer at UTS as well. Finally, I have a cattle farm in country New South Wales, which I'm desperately hoping is getting some of this rain right now. I also have a 14-month-old daughter called Molly and a cattle dog called Mate, but no questions about either of those things, otherwise we'll get nothing else done this session. Just before we proceed, there is a chat, a comment section as well that you can drop questions in. I'll do my best to grab those as we go. Otherwise, we'll have plenty of time at the end of this session to go through those. We also are recording this session, so I will send this through after, and I'll also send through the slides that have notes and stuff as well, so that you'll get all of that information, so you don't have to worry too much about taking them down as we go. All right, so I feel like we've done the public service announcements. So this session will cover how to lead and work online, and I'll provide a very simple framework for leaders and also those working in remote teams. We'll also look at a few of my favorite productivity tools. Some are from Google, some are not. This will allow you to work seamlessly online. And I also have a bit of a bias towards free apps. So everything I talk about will be absolutely no cost to you. This stuff is all free. Finally, we'll have a bit of a chat at the end if we can, if we've got a little bit of time, to talk through some of those, some of the pressure points for you at currently working from home, of which there are many. As I mentioned, I'm a father to a toddler, and I've got a catalogue in here somewhere, so I definitely understand that. And hopefully there's a way that we can kind of work through that and resolve that for you today. Any questions, guys, before we keep moving on? Nope, all good, beautiful. All right. So when, feels like a long time ago, but when I was at Storeful, it's probably 5 years ago now, I was the only staff member in Australia for the first 6 months. I had a CEO in New York and a managing editor in Ireland. I ran the news business. I also ran the creative business, which was basically almost like an advertising agency or marketing, content marketing agency inside the company. I never met my bosses before I started, and I also didn't have a team, so I really had to work pretty effectively in a remote environment straight away. I also started this role at Google during a pandemic. My first day, I got a knock on the door and they handed me a laptop, and that was it. So I basically poured all of those lessons into this session so that you guys can learn from my experiences. So let's dig in. We will start with a little bit of a bit of leadership here, but also super useful for anybody that is working in a remote team, which I think is pretty much everybody in the world right now. So when I was researching this topic, I came across this post by Brett Gleason on Forbes. Brett is the founder and CEO of Taking Point Leadership. He's also a best-selling author and a former Navy SEAL. Given he's a Navy SEAL and I've only watched SEALs at the zoo, I thought I'd better take his advice. And his tips align pretty closely with my experiences both in remote work at Storeful and also at Google. So I based my 9 tips on his 13 tips for leading and managing remote teams. I've also put the full link for Brett's full version up on the screen as well, so you can check that out if you want after this session. So number 1 is schedule daily check-ins. This is absolutely crucial. So while we have access to email, text, chat, phone, nothing really replaces face-to-face communication. So while I was at Storeful, I would start and finish my day with a Google Hangout, we now call it Google Meet, with my managing editor, Anya Kerr, who was based in Ireland. Then I'd sort of rush into the office and have an editorial meeting with my news team face-to-face, where we basically review the top 10 stories from the day before and set the agenda for the day ahead. I think that's also a really good model to work from, that kind of review, preview approach to those morning meetings, as it starts to build a habit for continual review, and it allows you to constantly build on what you've done the day before and constantly grow, which I think is really, really crucial. And something we don't often do, I think, in news organizations or within publishers is look at stuff, review stuff as we're going. We tend to go, okay, done, let's move on to the next thing. A crucial thing in these meetings as well, these daily check-ins, was that I always kept them to 15 minutes. I was absolutely militant about that because we just really want to keep that stuff short. Number 2 is over-communicate. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you CC your boss on every single email. It just means being really, really clear about what your team needs to do, and similarly what you're doing as part of that team. I'll show you a few tools shortly that will allow you to set and assign tasks, which is a key part of that strategy as well. At Storeful, we also did this thing that's quite common in tech, which was called the 5 at 5. Which was basically 5 things that I did that day, and all of the executives would send them through to our CEO, and also gave us an opportunity to talk to him daily about what we needed help and support with. So he was kind of catching stuff at a very early stage. So if there was an issue with an internal process, or we're having problems with a particular client that we needed to serve better, we could get that stuff to him pretty early. The third one is there really is an app for everything, and I'm absolutely amazed that every day when I think that there is not an app for something, there is always an app for something. So there is there's an app for a quick way to do a video chat without even scheduling a meeting now. I'm going to take you through an app that allows you to start a list and assign tasks. You can snooze emails for later. You can do email tracking to see if somebody has opened your emails, which is an important piece of information. So there really is an app for everything. So my advice just on general productivity is, if there is something that you are doing that's a repeat process, just see if there's a way of automating that. I mentioned that I wouldn't talk about the farm, but I'm going to talk about the farm. So we have an Airbnb that's part of that farm, and I just noticed that probably about 85% of my communications with guests were repeat processes. So it was sending them the same copy to say, hey, thanks for booking. We'll be in touch with you, a couple of weeks out with more information on how to get in and the things to do. And also, like, my reviews were pretty much the same. Everybody basically gets a 5-star review with me, unless you've trashed the place. So there were these repeat processes that I were just taking up all my time. And of course, there is an app for that. So I found this amazing app called Your Porter, which basically allows me to automate those tasks. Really, excuse me, really powerful to kind of constantly run a filter through your day and see if there are those repeat tasks that you can eliminate and free up time, which is what we're trying to do. Fourth one is focus on outcomes and not tasks. At Google, we don't use KPIs like we have in previous workplace that I've been in. We use OKRs, which I've renamed OKRs. I don't think it's going to catch on. But OKRs basically stands for objectives and key results. It's a really subtle difference, but it puts objectives or outcomes at the center of everything that you do. It also makes everybody responsible for delivering a goal. So it basically removes the pressure on individuals to deliver. And it's just a really clear way of communicating. Everybody knows what the company's OKRs are. Everybody knows what individual teams' OKRs are. And also at an individual level, what we're focused on as members of that broader business. And importantly with that, it's also got key results as part of that. So it just allows you to really not only say what you're focused on, but also how you're going to measure success. So what are the things that you're going to deliver, and also how are you going to measure that? So just an example from my current work. My objective is to help transform local, regional, and small publishers into sustainable businesses. It's a pretty big goal. How am I measuring success? Well, it's through reach. So how many publishers am I getting to? And also through those coaching elements, how many hours am I doing? So I'm sort of basically setting up what is my objective, and also how am I going to measure success. Hope that's clear. If not, please feel free to ping me in the chat, or just pop your hand up as well. You can do that through Google Meet. Number 5 is to provide resources. And I mentioned earlier about how my laptop was delivered to me on the very first day of my job. And I think to me, that was such a very strong sign straight up that this business was thinking about what I needed and was delivering those resources to me. And it could be as simple as that. So you've kind of all heard the phrase, bring a knife to a gunfight. So it's important that we make sure that you and your teams are set up for success. So that might be providing access to equipment like the laptop, providing access to remote working apps, like laptops, webcams, strong Wi-Fi, support for setting up those things, and also, I guess, support for when things go wrong. And it's really important that we sort of invest in this area, or you do pay for it in lost productivity as a business, that is for sure. Number 6 is to remove obstacles. As I mentioned, I will send all of this stuff through, so don't worry too much about having to note all this down. But number 6 is remove obstacles. This is a key part of how I see my role, both in leadership roles that I've had previously, but also when I'm part of a team. So when I think about this in terms of my role as a leader, is to basically remove obstacles for my team. And my role as a direct report, for one of a less management style term, is to solve problems for my boss. My boss is not on the call today, but he has been on previous sessions like this, and he's absolutely thrilled to hear that that's my focus. So I often start meetings with a question, which kind of just reinforces that approach in me, which is, how can I help? It just really, really enforces that constant behavior of, how can I remove obstacles, both as a leader, or how can I remove obstacles as a member of a team, or as an employee, or as a direct report. So really important one. Number 6, remove obstacles. Number 7 is be flexible. everybody is in different working environments at home, and I am in constant fear of that door behind me opening and Molly trundling in to watch a little bit of Bluey on my computer. Everybody is in very, very different working environments, and we can't often see what's happening. So it's really important at this time that we are kind of mindful of that. You know, some people will be in a special room in their house like this one. Others will be at their kitchen tables, others at coffee shops. So it's kind of really important that we understand the unique and changing circumstances of your team and your teammates at this time, and be really flexible to that, as frustrating as it can be. It's also really important that you cut yourself some slack as well. It's perfectly fine for things to be imperfect in the environment that we're currently working in. And look, after the pandemic as well, you know, things don't always go to plan. And I myself am absolutely terrible at focusing on the 5% of things that aren't working, and hyper focusing on those things, and not just cutting myself a little bit of slack and saying, well, look, if you're getting 95% of stuff right, then you're doing a pretty good job. So it is important to kind of cut yourself a little bit of slack as well. Number 8 is to show some grace. And look, I think empathy is really the most unrelated, is the most kind of unvalued, I think, quality at work, anywhere really. But this is just really about being kind. And, you know, there is so much research on emotional intelligence and emotional contagion. And some of the research I read recently on emotional contagion was really interesting. Basically, what that looked at was the effect that the response of managers had throughout the larger business to a situation of change or a situation of crisis. So how you react to what's happening around you has a contagious effect within your team and within your business. So calm is contagious, and also panic is contagious. So my advice is to be calm, as hard as that is at times. So yeah, that's a good one for me to remember as well, which is a really, really hard thing to do. The final one is number 9, be a mentor and not a manager. I've always preferred to be what I describe as a captain coach. This is probably going back to growing up in a small country town where rugby league was the religion, but I'm really happy to sort of, you know, run the plays as it would be, but I'm also not afraid to take the ball up, and that's how I like to approach things. So I guess your role as a leader is to get the best out of your team. That's certainly how I see it as well. And you know, you don't do that by barking orders at them. I think that sort of stuff used to work, and that's certainly the environment that I came through at. I started my career at a point where we just, you know, journalism had migrated from the pub back to the newsroom again, but there was still quite a lot of, you know, quite a lot of just really direct communication, I would say. Yeah, look, it's about developing and nurturing their talent, which is really, really hard to see when you're quite focused on delivering results. But taking a mentor and not a management approach is something that often works, I think, particularly with the younger workforce, right? They like a different style of leadership, and you know, I've certainly experienced both, and I think that certainly being a mentor and not a manager is an absolute fast track to getting the most out of your team. I'd also say that if you're not a manager, seek out mentors. So my first boss at a newspaper, I won't describe it, you probably look it up on LinkedIn. He was a bull of a man, and he wasn't really that interested in helping me be a better journalist. He to be frank, wanted me to stay small and, you know, just wasn't that interested in developing me. So I sought out mentors elsewhere within the business. I'd sit down with the chief sub to go through every single one of my stories. I'd run ideas past the newspaper editor. I'd watch and I'd listen and I'd learn from anyone and everyone. And I think that's how you grow. So, you know, it's a very common thing to talk about now, to seek out mentors. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be a super formal thing. You don't need to kind of send someone an awkward email and say, hey, you know, would you be my mentor? It can be a sort of multi-pronged approach, and it can be a lot softer than that. You know, just kind of trying to find people around you that are good at things that you're not, maybe, or maybe have more experience, more years on the clock, to be able to help you work through some of the stuff and just be better at what you do. So we've spent a fair bit of time on that yellow ball. Are there any questions before we move on to some of the apps? Nope. Good. Thank you, Bronwyn. Awesome. Cool. Well, let's keep rolling. So we're going to look at a number of tools now that you can use every day that will make room in your day for the other things, like work. Some of these tools are from Google, as I mentioned, some are not. These are my absolute personal favorites, tools that I use every day. As I mentioned at the start, I'm also very focused on free tools. The reason I do that is because it provides absolutely no barrier for you. So you can download these apps as soon as you get off this call and get rolling. There's no need for you to fork out any of your own money. No need to get approval from some sort of cost center within the business to get this stuff. You can just get going right away. So speaking of getting going, let's start with the ironically titled Slack, one of my favorite apps. We use Slack to run our newsroom at Storeful, and I liked it so much we now use it to run our household. As hard as that is for me to admit, imagine how fun it is to live with me. But you can create channels to bring people together around a topic, like say general newsroom, or features, or sport. If you're an editor, you can quickly dip into each section to see what's happening in real time. So basically, you could jump into a session, say it's say it's features, and you've got a big insert coming up at the weekend, and you've got a whole team working on some stuff. You can see where they're up to, what they're chasing. You can ask for updates. If you're integrating some of the other apps that I'm going to talk about just in a moment, you can even have a look at their copy and see where they are. Pretty powerful. The great thing about Slack as well is it also provides a knowledge base, which just really makes it easy to bring people up to speed when they join the business or when they get added to a team. You could add a new staff member on your workspace on Slack, and they can see all of the files, all of the conversations around whatever channels you let them see. And that's an important thing as well. There are permissions on every single channel. So once they get added to your workspace, doesn't mean that they can see everything. They can only see what you want them to see. This is also really good for security as well. So you can quickly remove access when someone leaves the team or leaves the business. It's a really secure way of working. Speaking of working or workspaces, let's talk a little bit now about a suite of tools that just had a bit of a rebrand. So Google Workspace is the suite of tools offered by Google that you would know as Gmail, Calendar, Google Drive, Google Meet. And they integrate really well with Slack. So when you hear someone talking about Google Workspace, it's basically G Suite or Google Suite. We're constantly changing the names of these things, which makes it super hard for everyone. But Google Workspace are those tools. So we also use this at home, from sharing budgets in Slack to working on draft proposals for the farm business. No surprise, we use this a lot at work, but I absolutely love these tools. So when I was at Storeful and also at News Corp, the global newsroom at Storeful in particular was run on these tools, and also, as I mentioned, with Slack. We were probably one of the first companies, I imagine, in the world that were using Slack. We were very early into that, and it cost us nothing, and that's probably why we were there first. We were a startup that was just very short on well, let's just say there's a financial rigor there. We're always looking for free stuff, so we got onto that stuff really early on. Now, what I really like about the most recent change with Workspace is that it basically brings all of those different tools that I've mentioned, like Gmail, Calendar, Google Drive, and also Google Meet, which we're on right now, into the inbox, into one place. So now you can basically have a chat with someone, which I didn't mention, but Google Chat's in there too. You can schedule a meeting using Calendar direct from your inbox. You can start a quick video chat with someone without having to even schedule a call inside your calendar. It's all inside your inbox now, which is a really often the place where we work from. A good hack, something that I sort of talk about a little bit, is because we're always thinking about content, I guess, as journalists, is that with Google Meet, you can also record interviews and create content. It's a really good hack if you're just trying to think about how do I create video for my website or my social media or whatever. You can very quickly just turn a simple interview that you were going to do on the telephone anyway into a video chat just by scheduling using Google Calendar. It's all in there. And you get that recording, and then you can cut it up or just upload it as a raw interview, and you've got video, which is one of the most powerful ways of telling your stories online. Workspace is pretty deep, but and I can spend some time with you individually if you want, taking you through exactly how it works. But definitely check it out. And as I mentioned, it is free. So when I was head of social at the ABC, it's like 8 years ago now, I would get to inbox zero at 6 p.m. and have 70 new emails on average by 11 a.m. the next day. That sounds like nothing, but if you're thinking 8 years ago, inbox zero by 6, 70 new emails by the next day, and everybody needed something. It wasn't just like a press release. I wasn't really working in a newsroom. I was working alongside them. So it was just people emailing me wanting stuff. It was overwhelming. I hadn't really been in a role where I just had so much coming in, and I really needed a system to be able to manage all of that, all of those tasks that were coming into me every single day. So I found this tool, which is called Workflowy. This is not a Google tool, but it's just a way of capturing all of the tasks that take longer than 2 minutes. That's how I break it down. So anything that takes less than 2 minutes, I do right away. Anything that takes longer than 2 minutes, it goes inside Workflowy. It absolutely revolutionized, if I might say that, the way that I work. And I never forget to do something now because Workflowy remembers for me. So it's been an absolute godsend for me. You can also use hashtags as filters within Workflowy as well. So I break down my hashtags in this way. I have a now hashtag, which is something that has to be done today. I'm sort of glancing across at that list, which is thankfully getting smaller. I have a soon hashtag, which is anything that needs to be done in the next 3 days. And I have a later hashtag that is anything that needs to be done in 3 weeks. And I also have an anytime hashtag, which is something that is good to do, but is not really a high priority. It's something that can be done at any point. It's not going to it's not going to break me if I don't get that thing done. You can also filter items by people as well. So when I meet my boss, Nick Hopkins, I have a #Nick hashtag. I don't know whether he knows this, but I can hit on that and I can see all of the things that I need to do for him so that I'm, ready for that meeting. I know what he's going to ask me about. And sometimes I also just put things that I need to update him on in there as well, just as a task. So update Nick on how the productivity session went on Thursday. And it's just a really easy and efficient way of just staying on top of things. Workflowy is on desktop. It's also on mobile. It syncs across both. And as I mentioned, it's absolutely free. So you can get into that right away. The cool thing about that is you can also share lists with people. You can assign tasks. I also use it as an outliner sometimes on projects. I've seen people outline novels and stuff using this thing. It's really quite flexible as well. So it's not just necessarily a way of getting your to-do list out of your head or out of your notebook book and into the wild. There's also Google Tasks, which is pretty good as well. There's a add-on for Chrome which is called Task Board for Google Tasks. That's a really good one for teams if you're looking for something where you can assign tasks and you can put dates against them if you want to and set reminders and all that sort of stuff. It's a really good thing for you to check out as well. So that's Google Tasks, it's very similar to Workflowy, and then Task Board for Google Tasks, which is the way of kind of viewing it on desktop and gives you some added functionality in there as well. Any questions, guys, on all of that stuff before we move on? No? Good. Okay. We will have a little bit of time at the end as well to talk about anything you want. So this is Canva. Again, not a Google app or a Google company, but absolutely love this one. So it's a fast and powerful design tool for newsrooms. It's also Australian, and it's one of the most successful startups ever, with I think a recent valuation of $6 billion. I think Canva. So an amazing company. So Canva has been created to allow you to basically design and publish social media content. Is a really easy way of using it, a great way to use it. It has little templates in it where it's customized for the platform. So it's the correct size for Instagram. It's the correct size for Facebook. You can upload your brand kits if you have them. So your logo, the color palettes that you use, all of that stuff, so that everybody else can access it and everything's on brand. You can also do pretty much any design task inside Canva. So I keep saying I'm not going to talk about the fun, but I keep talking about the fun. I recently created labels for jam jars using Canva. And I also created the resume that got me this job. So it's a really kind of broad platform. It just basically allows you to do any design task. This is a really good one if you are within a newsroom that has some constraint around design, which I think is probably every newsroom. So you don't have to necessarily go to somebody that's doing layout and say, hey mate, can you just quickly create me this graphic for this post for Instagram, and deal with the eye rolling when they're quite focused on getting the paper out or doing something for your website. So it's a really easy way of doing that stuff yourself. You can get a trial. I use the free version, but you can get a trial of the pro version right now, which gives you a bit more. It gives you those brand kits, a few other little features in there. maybe search Canva for newsrooms. They've got a special page that they've set up for newsrooms. They're starting to think about us a little bit more there. I've recently hired the wonderful Jonathan Harley, who used to be Director of Media at Twitter. So I can also put you directly in touch with Jonathan if you want to have a chat. Really happy to do that. I've kind of touched on this already, but this is basically what Google Tasks does. It gets those to-dos out of your notepad and into a place where you can put them to work. Again, it syncs across mobile and the web. It allows you to create, complete, and assign tasks right from your inbox. That's right, assign tasks. That's a pretty key one to pull out. There's also a really great way, as I mentioned, to visualize those tasks on desktop called Task Board for Google Tasks. So check that out. And look, if you want a hacked version of that, probably shouldn't say this, but something that I think is quite cool and something I've seen used in newsrooms before is just to create a Google Doc of, say, your news list. And you can then comment and assign tasks within that Google Doc. And it's a living document throughout the day. So as the news cycle changes, as your focus changes, you have a Google Doc rolling, updating your priorities, and you're able to tag journalists in, ask them for updates on things, all within that one document. It's a pretty cool thing to do. I love this. Everything in one place, everything you can see. All right, so we are at pretty close to time. I did want to push through a bit of content there so that we could make a bit of time to have a chat at the end, which is often some of the most useful stuff. So just to recap, well, it's embarrassing. That's a slide from another one. Look, just to recap, we went through what are the 9 leadership traits and what are the 9 focuses for us as both leaders and members of a remote team, which I will absolutely send through to you. We also went through some productivity tools that you can use to free up time within your day to do the really important work. I think we often get bogged down in just busy stuff, emails and meetings and stuff. So this is just really about, those tools are just really about creating time in your day so that you can focus on doing the really important stuff that is going to make big changes for your business and big changes for you as well. So that is the absolute goal of this and those tools. There you are up on the screen. That is my email. So you can email me at any point. Really, honestly, super happy to get your emails. neilvarcoe@google.com. I'm also on every social platform except TikTok. I probably need to sort that out. I can't dance, but I probably should look into that. So I'm at Neil Wrights on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me there. As I mentioned at the start, we have g.co/news training, which is for your training resources sources on demand. Feel free to email me if you want this session or you want to know about other sessions we might be doing that that can be tailored to you guys or delivered to broader members of your team. So I am going to stop presenting. Could you guys see the slides? No. Oh, okay, that's all right. I don't know what's happening with this. Google Meet. There we go. Okay. So can you guys still see the slides? Embarrassing that I have to ask that. You can't, but you could see the slides at some point all the way through. Okay. All right. Whew. I did, that's just a little bit of panic for me. I did a session at the start where I basically did 20 minutes and no one said anything and there was no slides. So I'm like, this guy's, what is he talking about? Guys, we do have a few minutes now. We've got about 5 minutes if you just want to ask any questions about any of the stuff that we've spoken about or just open slather, anything that you want to talk about. I'm really happy to try and tackle it. No questions? Stephanie, no questions? That all made sense?
Yeah, it did. I don't have a question so much, but I'd love to connect with Rose because her work sounds really interesting. And I'd love to, connect with her. But that was great. Thank you, Neil. That was very, very informative. And I think I've got a few about how we can kind of maximise our teamwork.
Beautiful. I'm just going to mute Rose there because we're getting a bit of feedback, but I will connect you guys on email.
Thank you.
Both of your emails, so I'll definitely do that after this.
Thanks.
Not at all. Bronwyn, how was that? Was that useful?
Yeah, very useful. We're pretty lucky at the moment where we've pretty much been able to work back in our office for quite a little while. It was good to sort of learn about Google Workplace because we use the Google side of things as well. So just picking up those little tips and tricks, how you can actually use it all in there instead of having your different apps and that. So I thought that was really good. And as well, those productivity tips, found it very, very helpful.
Cool, awesome. And I probably won't go to our great friends at the Sunraysia Daily because we don't want to, have her crashing while she's driving to another location. Rose, how did you find that? Have you got any questions, or was that useful for you?
Yeah, thank you very much. So useful. I've got a couple of immediate things to go away and try and experiment with, which is fabulous, and some longer range stuff to explore as well. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, and thank you for offering to connect me up. That will be very wonderful as well.
Not at all. Connecting people is honestly probably my favorite thing to do. So yeah, if I can connect someone, I will. It's a really good point by Rose there as well. Like, there's a lot of stuff in that session, so it's worth just kind of like starting with maybe one thing. Maybe it's just like, oh look, this week I'm just going to give Google Docs a crack, see if I can run my news list through that, or just run my to-dos through that. Or maybe Workflowy sounded interesting, I'll give that a go. Or maybe I'm just going to record my next interview instead of just doing a audio interview or whatever, so I can create some video content. So yeah, it's often we kind of get a little bit, we walk out of a session like this and we go, okay, he's mentioned 15 things. I don't have time to do all this stuff. Who does? But yeah, it's worth just trying a couple of them as you go and say, look, I'll just focus on this one thing for the next little bit. We're pretty much at time. As I mentioned, I will send this video through so you have a record of it. You'll get the full deck with almost every single word I've said, a transcript that's attached to that as well. And yeah, if there's anything else I can do for you guys, feel free to just email me back. I'm really happy to help with anything, or be a concierge service for you at Google. If there's some other part of the business that you need to talk to, and I can put you in touch with someone, I'm really happy to do that as well. Guys, thank you for making time in your day for this. That's the hardest thing to do. So I will release you guys back into the wild. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Neil.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Pleasure.